Hey everybody, I am Kevin Iole. I am joined right now by Dan Ige, who won Saturday over at UFC Apex in the UFC Vegas 86. Did an unbelievable job with Andre Fili, knocked him out in the first round. And I guess I have some advice, Dan, for other featherweights in the world. Do not fight Dan Ige when his wife is just about to give birth to a child. Because last time it happened, it was a first round knockout. This time, Dan's wife, Savannah, is pregnant and due any day now. And he did it again to Andre Fili. Dan, what is it about these babies that brings out the beast in you?
I don't know. I think it just kind of everything just feels so real, and you never know when your last fight's gonna be, but it's almost like your back's against the wall, your whole family's, put everything aside for you. I just feel like I almost have to get it done, especially when
Right.
my wife, dealing with the hormones and the pregnancy and being uncomfortable. Like it's like she has her own fight. So she's so self-centered on pregnancy and the birth. And I was so self-focused on the fight. Um, I just had to get it done. There was I couldn't leave no questions.
We've talked about this a lot. To be a fighter, you have to be selfish and kind of do things for yourself, and kind of ignore others while you're getting ready for a fight. And yet, when you're a father, an expectant, father, and then you have to kind of think of the other one. So I'm kind of curious why you have done this, why you've accepted fights when you knew your wife was pregnant and you had a fight coming up around that time. Why not kind of do it different timing?
I don't know. I think it's just I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. God gave me talents, and I'm honoring and obeying Him by going after. My job, my role is to show up every day and work my hardest. And when I'm home, I can be there. I can be present. I can be a present dad, be a present husband. But especially with Bam, our first kid, when he was just a newborn, like I really didn't know what to do. I almost forced myself to stay home, and I didn't know what to do. Like I was like, I don't know what to do here to help you. And I'm like trying to be the role of a dad, and it felt weird, and
Right.
just kind of learning to accept my role and what I do as the provider for my family and the breadwinner is, I don't get paid when I go to the gym, but I don't know, it's like compound interest. You just show up every single day and you put in the work, and eventually it pays off like it did last Saturday.
I want to talk to you, talk about going to the gym and doing the work. You had done some work with Feely before this fight, in the past. And, explain to people who sometimes think that there's hard feelings between you guys, right? So, and I know in some cases fighters have that, but you and Andre, had a good relationship. So when you agree to fight him, what is that like? Is it get in your head, or is it difficult to fight somebody that you respect, you like, and that you have worked with before?
Yeah, it was really difficult when I lost my original opponent, and I'm self-managed, so I speak directly, with Sean Shelby and the matchmakers, and Sean told me my opponent was injured and he was going to seek a replacement, and I had planned to just my mind, everything was set on fighting almost regardless of who they offered me,
Mm-hmm.
just given the circumstance of I knew if I would have waited at that point, my daughter would have been born. It just would have just put things into reverse. And I didn't want to wait that long after investing that much time and sacrifice into a camp. I prepared myself in my mind and my body and dieted and disciplined. But yeah, speaking about that, training with Andre Fili, we had done a lot of work in the past. He came out to Vegas, and he was even contemplating moving out to Vegas just to change things up and make his own little team. And we got a lot of training, and then Sean Shelby texted me. This was about 3 days after I lost my opponent. He texted me in the morning. First thing, it was at 8:30 a.m. He said Feely wants the fight, and it caught me off guard, honestly, because he wasn't. I speak with Ali. Ali doesn't manage me, but we were talking back and forth, just like, potential opponents and possibilities, because he's just like a kind of a mentor to me. And
He loves
he
you.
even
All the jealousies we're talking about. Yeah.
yeah, he brought up Feely, and I was like, no, like I don't want to, like, I'm not gonna ask for Feely. Like I like, I like that dude way too much. And then when I got the message that he asked for me, he wanted the fight, and I don't blame him. It's an opportunity, right? But it just kind of like it bothered me a little bit. And I just kind of let that sit with me, and I use that almost as fuel, and I use it every day in training. It just brought almost put a chip on my shoulder, and I was like, man, he obviously thinks he can beat me somewhere from our training sessions that we've had, which were very like respectful and nice and friendly and picking each other's brains and just being vulnerable and being open. I had never thought we're gonna face each other. Maybe in the past we may have, but yeah, it just kind of caught me off guard. So I had to use that. My bad, Kevin. Sorry. I'm getting a call and I'm trying to end it.
We can,
Sorry.
no worries. So, I mean, the bottom line is, you had to fight a guy. It's a difficult guy to fight. But here's the thing that's interesting to me. At media day, he said, it wasn't like he was looking to fight you, that they had talked to him about fighting you. And he said, yes, I'll take the fight.
Yeah.
So I think both of you guys probably felt the same way and then had a little fuel from, hey, Dan wants to fight me or Andre wants to fight me. And it gave
Yeah.
both you guys a little fuel, huh?
Yeah. I listened to his media day, and I heard him say that, and I was like, nope. Like I had to keep my mindset that I was in because it brought the best out of me. If like I think I mentioned in my post fight interview, if I was in there and going in there to be his friend, like he's so good. When we're just play sparring, dude, he'll just out tech me and just he's really good. So
Mm-hmm.
I knew I had to go in there and just make it a little bit violent, and you know.
What and you were violent. That was an unbelievable right hand that you landed on him. I want to get to this something that you talked about Saturday night after the fight. You said you put guys up on a pedestal and whatnot, and that you didn't have to do that or you shouldn't do that going forward. Um, is that just because of your own watching of them saying, "Oh man, I'm not sure I can compete with this," or is it? Do you think the social media got in your head, like the social media aspect, kind of took over and got between your ears?
A little bit of both. I think I'm just I'm very honest with myself, and I'm very real with, the possibilities of what could happen. I always believe I have a chance, and I always believe I could beat anyone in the division. You put me with anyone, I believe I have a chance to beat them, but I'm also very real and honest with the fact that I could be beaten.
Right.
And it it's not letting that doubt, creep up into your head too much to where you're just a little bit gun shy. You don't fully believe in your own skills and your own ability. It's not that I go into training like timid and shy, or it, it just it starts to compound. It's like the
Right.
snowball effect, and it kind of depends on which side you lean on. So you could be too confident also, going into a fight, which I've been too confident, and it didn't work out my way. Like the Korean Zombie fight, I was so confident
Right.
that I was just gonna knock him out. I didn't even have a game plan. I was like, I'm gonna knock him out, and I'm gonna get a title shot because I think this is the guy to do it on. And there was no real game plan, and he had a solid game plan. And then I've been in fights where I just didn't fully believe myself and still came out victorious. Like Edson Barboza, like I literally fought him out of fear. I was on the couch. It was in COVID, middle of 2020 lockdown, and Dana came out. Was like, whoever wants to fight, let us know. We're gonna
Right.
start putting on fights. And this was about April at the time, so I was like, I'd like to fight. And they're like, okay, you can fight next month in May versus Edson Barboza. And I know this guy's been preparing for like he was supposed to fight in December and it didn't happen. And then it got pushed back, and then the lockdown happened. So I was like, this dude's shredded. He's a monster. He's in shape. He knocks people out with wheel kicks. But I just put my name in the hat, and now I don't want to like step back on that. So I took the fight, and and then it just worked out in my favor. But I had to just fight and not think about it. And it worked out in my favor, just having no time to think about it almost. Uh, and then yeah, the Russian guy Evloev, I had 17 weeks to prepare. You overthink about one guy for 17 weeks, so you could dial things in and get everything good and ready, and then it's just like you just burn out. You burn out thinking about that one person for so long, and you don't give your best performance. So
I want to use Volkanovski as an example for my question next. You know, I always wonder why boxers don't do what MMA fighters do, which is, you know, you take short notice fights against difficult opponents all the time. Volkanovski goes less than 2 weeks training and he fights Islam Makhachev, right? And I think any manager would say, boy, that's not a really smart move to, you know, fight a guy like that from a fighting standpoint, you know, when you're just coming off the couch, essentially. But I think the do you think that that's the level of confidence that it takes to be successful? That, hey, I can come off the couch in 11 days and beat a fighter the caliber of Islam Makhachev. Do you think that's the level of confidence that you need and that, you know, other fighters need to be able to be successful in the UFC?
I think so, yes. And I also think it's like it comes down to taking risk. And because literally everyone in the UFC, any fight I take in the UFC is a risk. I know some people will say like, "Oh, this guy's a bad matchup," or don't take this fight or take this fight instead. Like just because someone's a favorable matchup for me on paper doesn't guarantee that I'm going to win. It's still a risk. So that's why I've always fought, tough guys, because I'd rather fight the bigger name, the tougher opponent, and get past him. And I think it does my name more good. It gives me more value to my name. And also, I think it's a testament to why I've been in the UFC for so long, because I've literally, I mean, I haven't turned down a fight ever. I
Mm-hmm.
fought the who's who. I fought, guys on the come up who weren't very well known, and then I fought some killers. And it seems like every guy in my last 10 fights have all been killers.
Oh yeah.
And you win some, you lose some, but like I said, every fight's a risk, and sometimes it pays off big, and sometimes you lose, and you just got to pick yourself up and fight again. And that's kind of how I look at it now. It's just one fight at a time. I don't like, oh man, I'm so close. I gotta beat this guy, and then I'll get a title shot. I don't look at it like that anymore. It's just one fight. That's my opportunity, and I'm gonna make the best of it, because I just know nothing in life is guaranteed. And I think I'm just kind of maturing more as a human and a fighter, but as a human. And I just want to make the best of any and every opportunity that I get, like I did Saturday night. That was an opportunity. Hey, I got past it. I think I'm going to have another opportunity, but there's nothing guaranteed beyond that. So I'm going to make the best of the next one and the next one and the next one.
Do you want to stay in fighting when it's done? I mean, you know, you've managed fighters, you manage yourself, right? You've been in the business a long time. You're a smart guy, trained fighters. When it's all said and done, whenever that comes up and you're done, do you want to stay in the business or will you move along?
I think I'll stay around. I don't know exactly. I don't know if I will go into management, but I feel like I'm not one to take on 100 guys, but I think I can help and mentor people and guide people in the correct way. And I know every single person is different, so I would have to take that approach differently with each and every athlete. And that's just, yeah, I don't know if I go into coaching or managing or both, or just, but I do see myself sticking around. I do want to venture off into some other business things, obviously, and just you got to keep making money somehow, some way. And what I'm gonna do with that, I don't really know yet. I have some plans, but nothing too crazy. But I'll probably stick around the sport.
Interesting. Now we know you got a lot more fights. You had mentioned Saturday night after the win that you might want to fight on the card of the Sphere. You mentioned Diego Lopes. He's fighting UFC 300, and he's a guy that I have been blown away by some of his performances. That he's had so far. And you talk about matchups, and what is he? He's very tall. That's a bad, just I guess, physical matchup for you if in fact that matchup happens. But what was it in him that you saw? Was it just the fact that he was Mexican and fighting on Mexican Independence Day would be a guy that would be a good match for you?
Yeah, I mean, yes, he's super exciting. I've been a fan of his. Just watching his few fights in the UFC, they've all been great, and he's made a name for himself already in 3, 4 fights. Um, there wasn't anything about like we've also trained together maybe once.
Oh, okay.
And we're very respectful and friendly in person. If I ever see him at the PI or crossing by, he's very respectful, and I'm respectful to him. And so there wasn't anything like, oh, I don't like this guy, I want to fight him, and I want to fight these guys. But because of the Mexican Independence Day, I know Dana wants to put that show there. I think it would be a big significant fight, and it would bring a lot of eyes, because people like watching me fight, they like watching him fight. But those are kind of the Lopez, Yair, and Ortega are like the three kind of Mexican fighters in the top 15, and really in my division, there's not a ton. So any of those guys would make sense, but I'm not set on only fighting those guys. I
Understood.
just think that's an amazing opportunity. It doesn't come around every day, and it excites me.
We'll wrap with this. I appreciate your time. You're a smart guy in this sport, and I want to get your take on a little bit of a debate going on, changing the rule, of a grounded opponent. And we've seen that, time and time again come up. Delite and Imavov fight just recently was a problem. Have you seen the new rule proposal, and what do you think basically would be the right thing to do in that situation where it's fair for the fighters, but it's also a safe issue?
I haven't seen the new rule proposal, but I think knees on the ground should be legal. I think kicks on the ground should be legal. Um, and I think 12 to 6 elbows should be legal. I we can literally, you know, I could throw a right hand as hard as I can to someone's skull, and there's nothing wrong with that. I can kick someone with a freaking shin, a baseball bat. There's nothing wrong with that. Like, there's not that much force you can create by like kneeing someone. Like, it's not going to change the game that much. I've seen some brutal ones in like Pride back in the day, and some
Right.
stomps and whatnot. But it's I think you gotta be able to defend yourself. It's a fight, and I think that would take away obviously the people playing that up and down and these fouls happening. You can't play that anymore. You either got to move and get out, or you're gonna get TKO'd. So that would be my take on it. I don't know what I think something does have to change because we've seen it a lot. Just especially in the most recent fights, people getting fouled and the Movsar Evloev fight. That could have changed the whole dynamic of that fight right there.
It
Um,
could change a championship at some point, right? I mean, and that,
yeah,
think about that.
yeah, because really, so I don't know. But I'm here for it. So
Well, let me follow up with one other question because you mentioned soccer kicks, and I have a hard time with soccer kicks personally, right? And you're in boxing, you get knocked down. There's an 8 count, right? Obviously in MMA, you follow the guy down and you try to finish him. If a guy goes down and he's hurt, and now you get somebody decide to throw a soccer kick, right? I mean, you talk about no leverage. Well, soccer kick you can get quite a bit of leverage into, right? So how do you justify that as you want the sport to be safe, and obviously there's anytime you step into a fight, there's risk, but we want
yeah,
to wisely minimize risk, right? So how do you
right.
justify a soccer kick?
You bumped the pay. I don't know. Yeah, soccer kicks are pretty brutal, and And that's something it's hard to train for because we're not gonna be kicking each other's skulls just in the gym, just being training partners. I I don't know. I just wouldn't want to be on the other end of it, but
Yeah.
yeah, up the pay, maybe.
Well, you got more important things to worry about right now. You got a baby coming. Congratulations, Dan. We appreciate you. All the best. Congrats on the win and good luck with the new baby.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin. Appreciate you. Appreciate your